Good morning and welcome to the first technical session of the Global Health Conference on Augmenting Synergies for Universal Healthcare. I'm Rifa Muttalib, pursuing my first year MBBS in Sri Madhusudan Sai Institute of Medical Sciences and Research. We shall commence the discussions with the theme of Sustainable Growth Through Innovation in Pharmaceutical Industries. We have a wonderful panel of experts for the session this morning. We have with us Dr. Shailaja Ponmudi, Chief Scientist, Chairperson of Business Development and Research Management at CSIR, Indian Institute of Chemical Technology, Hyderabad. Dr. Ramesh Dandala completed his PhD and postdoctoral experiences from IIT Kharagpur. He is now presently working as an Executive Vice President, Unimark Remedies. Dr. Amol Kulkarni, he'll be joining us later. Dr. Amol Kulkarni is an Indian research scientist at National Chemical Laboratory, Pune. He earned his PhD from the Institute of Chemical Technology, Mumbai in Chemical Engineering. Sumathi Rao is a senior management personnel with 30 years of experience in formulation analytical research department and quality. Finally, we have a moderator, Mr. Rambabu Katragadda, Managing Director of Pulse Pharmaceuticals Private Limited. Over to Mr. Rambabu Katragadda.
So I would like to begin this session with my humble pranam to Sri Sadguru Madhusudan Sai. And this session is a very important session. It's the first session, technical session. So in our inaugural session, there was a lot of emphasis laid on equitable healthcare, affordable, equitable healthcare. So that is where this topic is going to be very relevant for that cause. Today, India has already been recognized as a global leader for supplying low-cost generic drugs to almost all corners of the world. Every country that we go, we will find Indian generics. So we have already achieved that cost efficiency over years. Thanks to our chemistry expertise, we have already achieved that. And there is so much scope still in this space because there is so much demand for generic drugs. So there is almost like 85% in US alone, 85% of the prescriptions are dispensed with generic drugs. There is so much consumption for generic drugs in a most advanced country like US, that is the level of consumption. So then when it goes to many other countries, poor or rich, there is so much need for generic drugs. Generic drugs is the only way, is the only strategy through which we can reach out to large number of patients, that as Bhagwan Madhusudan Sai says, that we reach out to people. It's very important that we should be able to reach the last and the least person. So that is possible only with generic drugs. But of late, we are seeing some challenge with this production of our generic drugs. So some of our technologies that we have developed in the past, they are no longer becoming feasible to produce cost effectively, because there are a lot of restrictions placed on this industry from the environmental side. The governments are putting more restrictions for producing these drugs, not only cost effectively, but environmentally, we should protect the environment. So we should now probably look at developing the more efficient technologies for, reduce our, effluent burden, or, save our environment, at the same time produce these drugs at a cost-effective manner. So now with this idea in mind, so I have the experts, I have two experts from the academia, institutions, government institutions, then I have two experts from industry. So I would like to ask the sustainability. The topic is actually divided into two things: the sustainability of this business, And the second is about our, how do we achieve this self-reliance? Today we have a lot of dependence from China, and most of our KSM and intermediates are imported from China. So the government of India has already taken initiative to reduce this dependence. So the recent PLI scheme that has been introduced by Government of India, it aims to reduce our dependence of imports by at least 50%, so by 2025. So that's the aim of this scheme. So in spite of that, how much we have been able to achieve that self-reliance in this space, and that's another area that we wanted to deliberate. So now I think one of the most important issue here is the green chemistry practices. So how can we actually bring this green chemistry practices into the API development or API synthesis? I would like to first ask Dr. Shailaja, how much this technology can be applied in our pharmaceutical synthesis, the drug synthesis.
Thank you very much for that question. Good morning to you all, and it's a pleasure for me to be on the panel over here and talking to you. The question is very clear that we all, as knowledge partner, representing the R&D Premier Institute under the CSIR, we behave and understand completely the need of the pharmaceutical industry. As the time changes, we need to also change and be innovative in trying to provide solutions that are greener and cleaner. So both environmentally benign solutions, keeping in mind the pollution or the zero liquid discharge solutions, and also on greener, the other side being trying to make it more atom efficient and less of burden on the manufacturer in terms of being more cost competitive by reducing the unit operations, and also at the same time making it more energy efficient. These are the different kinds of aspects we keep in mind to make the processes more greener and more amicable for the manufacturer, so that these processes can probably be patented as well when there is some innovation element coming in along the way while we attempt on these process development and product development. And that way we are always there as a service provider and as a solution provider. Quite dynamic we are, and have all the skill set and the expertise at our end. We are around 9 chemistry laboratories in India under the CSIR. Pan-India we are distributed, and we work very closely with pharma companies to provide our services. So I would say that we are very much into it, and we will be very happy to provide.
Thank you, Dr. Shailaja. So I would ask Dr. Ramesh, how much of this green chemistry principles are being applied in your day-to-day production practice?
Yeah, good morning or good afternoon to all of you. See, I work for Natco Pharma Limited, though I worked earlier for Unimark Pharma Limited, Unimark Remedies Limited, Ahmedabad. So the challenges, in terms of sustainability, both for key starting materials as well as the bulk drugs, are the new term is active pharmaceutical ingredients. The challenges are multifold. So what is sustainable? Whatever you do, whatever you use, you should be able to bring it back to the system with no adverse impact on the people or population, environment, as well as, generally, world, let us say, For example, just to cite a commonly known example, plastic, for example, whatever we use, it is not easily biodegradable. It just gets accumulated everywhere. I remember, about 25, 30 years ago, when we drank, a bottle of Bisleri, we would carry that bottle home and use it, But today, what you see, there is so much, there are so many bottles, you simply throw, you have no place to store anywhere. The same thing happened to many of the mineral resources as well as petroleum feed, which is essentially the raw material for various solvents. used in the pharmaceutical chemistry. So what Mr. Rambabu said, the green chemistry consists of 12 principles. You can just check the Google or anything. You will see all the 12 principles. But the ones which are extremely relevant, where 90% of the pollution or the impact comes because of use of solvents. Okay, so it is important to decide what solvents we want to use. Okay, easily recoverable and recyclable. So we should be able to use, reduce the consumption. You asked a question, it is absolutely by design. There is nothing like an accident, you have found something, You have to design to use less amount of solvent. For example, industry typically used 10 volumes or 15 volumes of solvent with regard to input materials. About, let us say, 15, 20 years ago. Today we challenge that parameter. What is the minimum you need? Is it 5 volumes? 5 volumes is good enough. We try to reduce it to 4 or 3 and challenge that. Similarly, workups. Okay, choose the solvents, which have got less solubility in water, which are inherently safer to handle, less toxic to environment. So this is all by design. We certainly do that. Okay. Now there are always challenges in terms of regulatory. Whether the agencies are comfortable, agreeing to your proposal of accepting, recovery and recycling of the solvents or not. By and large, they are very flexible, they are open. It is up to us to generate good data. And the only exception many companies make is in the final stage, where recycling, often requires, generation of additional data. So companies do tend to make a trade-off, sometimes in the final API manufacturing stage. But otherwise, most of the companies do recycle, recover and recycle most of the solvents. Okay, we do, definitely. And we also look for the best possible process in terms of innovation. We try to generate less waste. So let's say to manufacture 1 kg, we don't have to use 80, 85 kgs of other materials, solvents, reagents, catalysts and others. So make an effort by design, choose a reaction. There are many wonderful reactions. You may require time to master them, but that's the target. That is what we are hired for. Bring the best practices to the table that minimize pollution, increase the yield, okay, and most important, cost effective and the best quality possible. Okay, quality cannot be compromised. Low cost does not mean poor quality. It has to be the highest quality, whether we manufacture in India or the US or the Europe. It has to be one quality, fitting everyone.
So Dr. Sumathi, so you have the background and strength of, the drug substance characterization and, analytical chemistry. So how do you think that green chemistry practices will minimize your analytical development burden?
Om Sai Ram, and it is a privilege and honor to be a part of you all today. In the part of the analytical work, we would say earlier the coating was, a big concern, because we were using a lot of methylene chloride, IPA, and all those things to make it so palatable. And nowadays, we say no to it. No coating. We don't allow coating. We only go with aqueous coating. By Mother Nature, we are very lucky enough to go with aqueous coating. And aqueous coating, we have mastered in such a way that, people have developed skill. So tablets look so compatible and so palatable. So this has really benefited the analytical part, because we don't have to test for any residual solvents.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's
so
a major
we
burden.
Basically are, void of it. And the other thing is, we don't need to have a wastage in the production unit. Like earlier, we had to look into mother driller and do good earthing. Nowadays, we are blessed because we don't have to go with those type of coating materials which have a very good chalking. And it's taking the current developed during coating. So all that is also being minimized, and we have benefited a lot towards the patient care too.
So that's very interesting, Sumathi. So I think you said it well, because most of the time you have a big burden of analyzing these solvents, residual solvents.
Yes.
So if you can avoid them, so that actually saves a lot of time and a lot of cost. That's good. So we have Dr. Amol with us from NCL Pune. He just joined us a little late. And in fact, I wanted to ask him a very, very interesting question, which for my own learning. So Dr. Amol, he has actually received a Lifetime Achievement Award recently for continuous reaction and micro reaction. So I just wanted to understand, so how this continuous reaction helps in sustainable practices and how it improves the efficiency of our drug production, drug substance production.
Yeah, first of all, I'm very sorry I could not come in time because there was a delay.
You're just in time.
Yes, sure, thanks. Thank you.
You didn't miss anything.
So in general, when we manufacture any pharmaceutical compounds, where each drug molecule undergoes multiple reactions one after the other, and in several cases, the reactions are carried out at very low temperature for very long time. So what happens is that your products and the reactants both are together for long time, and that leads to formation of the side products or the impurities. So in typical batch protocol, always there is a requirement also to use a large quantity of solvents as well. But when you go in continuous flow synthesis, two aspects come into picture. First is that your reactants are together only for the time for which the products are formed. So you don't need any time beyond that. And so by the time the reaction is over, the reactants are out or the product is already out and no more reactant is in contact with the product. So that reduces the formation of impurities significantly. Second important thing, when you do a reaction, any chemical reaction at very low temperature, actually what is happening is that you are reducing the rates of the reaction. So in general the reactions are fast, but you cannot handle that much heat from the reaction, so you reduce the temperature. So when you do it in continuous flow, all these flow reactors, the ability to remove the heat which comes out from the reactions is so high, 1,000 times higher, 10,000 times higher, which means that the reactions which you can do for a time period of 16 hours, 18 hours, 24 hours can happen actually in few minutes. So your reactor volumes decrease, so your overall footprint of the plant decreases, your amount of chemical that you are using in general also decreases significantly to produce more amount of the product. So that is the way it becomes more and more sustainable.
So
one last
wonderful.
point, by and large, we see that in several processes, that during the development, a lot of solvent is used. Solvents are neither reactants nor products. So eventually all these solvents go in the atmosphere, either in the form of a volatile organic compound or in the form of a effluent. So it is necessary to develop the protocols where you don't need solvents at all, and that is also can be done in a continuous mode. So we have been able to kind of establish very large scale manufacturing without using any solvents. So when you don't use solvents, you don't need to recover the solvents also. That is
wonderful,
sustainability.
wonderful, Dr. Amol. So I think this will further, amplify our capability for producing drugs at a much, cost-effective manner. So how far this technology has been applied in the industry? Is it being used or it is still in the...
No, it is being used. So
Okay.
let me tell you, the numbers are, it's kind of a pyramid. So as of now, there are close to 500 pharma industries who are using it at the lab scale.
Okay.
There are almost 100 industries have taken it to close to the bench scale continuous manufacturing. They have invested huge amounts of money.
Okay.
Around 50 pilot plants exist in the pharma industries. 12 to 13 have gone to the commercial scale manufacturing. And this is only about the pharma. If you look at the fine and specialty chemicals, there the numbers are much bigger than this. But the requirements are huge. This is what we have right now. It's absolutely at minuscule level. If we want to reduce the imports, if we want to make our processes better, if we want to basically reduce the pollution coming out from any of the chemical industries, then this number has to increase.
That's really good. So now, are you consulting with some pharmaceutical companies for you know?
Many.
Huh?
Many.
Okay.
Yes.
So probably we will also require your help.
Definitely.
And is it being used for many products, or it is still used selectively for fewer categories of products?
No, many products.
Okay.
Many products. You name the reaction, I will be able to tell you kind of which product, who is making at what. So it can be done. Yes.
Okay. So what about the other one, the micro reaction?
Okay. These are all together. In the sense, say continuous flow synthesis and microreactors. It's part of the same story.
Okay.
Yes, because microreactors are used. These are like very small reactors which can be used for carrying out reactions with very small footprint of chemicals. Because when I'm able to carry out my reaction in, say, we recently developed a process for a product called azelaic acid as a part of one CSR project, mission project called Improtix. We have licensed it to a few companies now. In general, conventionally when this reaction is carried out, it's by ozonolysis. The reaction happens at minus 78 degrees centigrade for 16 hours. We do it at 0 degrees centigrade in 5 seconds.
Oh.
So you can imagine now as compared to 16 hours, you are doing it in 5 seconds. So the overall footprint of the reactor, the size of the reactor, the overall footprint of the chemical plant is very, very less. So that makes the change.
So you mean to say the existing infrastructure cannot be used for this, you need to redesign the equipment?
I would say you can use all the existing reactors as storage tanks.
Okay, yeah, okay. For actual reaction, the core purpose, you can have a specially designed reactor.
Yes, you need to, because the real purpose, I will tell you, even for this particular case of ozonolysis, the reactions are exothermic. They generate a lot of heat. So the total amount of heat that is generated in 16 hours versus the same amount of heat which is generated in 5 seconds.
Oh.
Now you can imagine the reactors
the
have
reactor
to be different.
design has to
they
be
have
different.
To be,
yeah.
They have to be different.
Got it.
Yes.
That's great. So I think it's something new I have learned today. So
are you able to handle a lot of slurries?
Yes, we have been able to handle even the solid phase, fully solid reactions also in continuous flow. Yes.
So Dr. Amol, my last question: how much commercial benefit this process will, we will be able to derive out of this?
I'll tell you, we were working with one company on one aromatic nitration in 2016. 2017, they put up the pilot plant, and then toward the end of 17, they put up the commercial plant. At that point of time, there are two manufacturers from India of that particular product and 6 outside the world. Right now, they are the only manufacturers.
Okay.
All are wiped out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The process is really efficient in the sense the reaction times are 2 minutes, and so you don't need very large plants, and efficiencies are very, very high. So safety is better, and nobody else could match those parameters.
So then probably we don't require these thousands of acres of pharma cities.
No, I think, let me tell you, so we need those thousands of acres of pharma cities,
Okay.
but then we should be able to also start manufacturing our key starting materials there.
Okay.
Because we need those, because it cannot be like we need big pharma cities, but we should also stop our imports of the key starting materials.
Right.
Then it is worthwhile.
That's good. Okay, now that you touched on the key starting material, that's again a burning topic today. So our major dependence on key starting material is on China, and our government want to reduce that dependence, and they are putting all these efforts. So how do you think we can reduce this dependence on China? Maybe I think I will ask Dr. Ramesh to answer this question. So apart from these incentives that the government has announced, so what are the other ways that you propose that we can actually do these materials in-house?
So I think, we must collaborate with, multiple vendors, because a small scale company, may not have access to, high quality instrumentation and some of the chemicals and others. And there is a culture change that has to happen. If a product is successful, everybody wants to start manufacturing that particular product. You take 1990s example of ciprofloxacin. There were probably literally hundreds of companies which jumped into manufacturing of ciprofloxacin until the price dropped from 1 lakh rupees to literally 1,000 rupees. Okay, so we should learn to enjoy the success of a few companies if there are more than 3 or 5 companies for the key starting material. Okay?
Exactly.
I think that should get discouraged. The same thing is there in our farmers. Everybody grows paddy. Where is the price for paddy?
Exactly.
Okay, it is impossible to consume everything. So at Natco, for example, we also work with vendors. Sometimes we finance them. Otherwise, we bring the expertise. Okay, sometimes we do the work and transfer the technology to them. Not necessarily exclusive. They can sell it to someone else if they want, provided the first right of refusal is with us. So we need to work collaboratively. The only technologies I believe are not readily accessible in India, okay, particularly the petroleum feedstock. We are not as good as China, for example. Fermentation, we have got the ability, but there is probably not such a continuous focus. You start, then somebody looks at a cheaper alternative from China and start importing that. So it's you start and stop. So you really have no time to master anything. So that is one lacuna we see. And the biologics. Okay, I think for biologics, I think we are not very good. What China had done is they gave the talent pool attraction. They gave an incentive of almost like $1 million, okay, for each of them, to come and set up a company, and they would get 1 crore of rupees as salary, it's a compensation, whatever it is, pocket money, let us say, for 3 years, okay. And the government had built 35 storied buildings. You come, plug and play. Literally in 3 months, you can start your, research or company, What happened, it made a huge impact in the biotechnology for China. Many experts who have spent years developing, working in those segments, they came, they returned, and they started this biotech. So I think, some of the new drugs as well as new drugs that will come in the next few years, will be from China as well. Okay, these are the 2 areas I see, particularly related to fermentation as well as, biologics, being the significant laggards, in India. Anything related to synthetic, we are good, no problem in that. Okay, only question is, people should not rush, there is a cheaper alternative, I would like to bring that, at the cost of domestic development, So some, I think, trade-off.
Absolutely. That's something, I think you said it right, because many countries are now trying to protect the interest of their domestic industry by imposing some of the restrictions. So I think somebody was suggesting in the audience also in the morning that our government also should come up with some of such, import restrictions so that the domestic industry is incentivized to focus. I mean, they can actually work, because once if there is a market and there is some price protection, then they can work on developing the quality also. Today, as you said, for these intermediates and key starting materials, so there is no kind of benchmark for pricing. So it's all demand versus supply kind of scenario. It's exactly what the farmer faces today. The same scenario is being faced by this industry. So many times, these small industries who are into manufacturing these intermediates, so they suffer because they can't kind of meet the the price expectation from these large companies. So that's something that I think government should do about it. And so probably, as he said, that few companies should focus on certain class of drugs, not instead of everybody trying to do everything. So that's something as a strategy should be adopted. So now, Dr. Shailaja, what is your IICT doing about? So are you working on some newer technologies to cost effectively produce these even intermediates and key starting materials?
Yeah, thank you. Well, as my colleague from NCL, Dr. Kulkarni said, we are all the time trying to facilitate the pharma industry as a knowledge partner. And in the process, all the laboratories of CSIR, we formulated a mission for on the import substitution, which he mentioned, Infrotix. Infrotix is innovative processes and technologies for Indian chemical sector. And there, what we are, our aim is to identify certain molecules based on their need, and the demand. Along with the industry partners, we list them and develop, be it KSMs, intermediates, and APIs. These are identified and listed based on the need of the society and the patient demand. So once we do that, we as an laboratory and R&D institute, we can take it up to TRL 3 or 4. That is creating a proof of concept at lab scale. From there on, we need the industry to participate and collaborate with us to take it to the next level. So we come up with innovative and cost competitive, let us devise. Actually, today I would like to submit to this global healthcare conference to very humbly to Madhusudan Sai Garu that we can probably formulate a One Health mission together, because let us break the barriers and not work in silos anymore. Now that a lot of industry personnel are representing and they are here in this room, I would say that academia and industry, if they come together on a public-private partnership mode, then we can actually achieve many things faster and many things to stop imports. Regulations and government putting something is not in our hands, but this is in our hands. We can come together, formulate this as a mission under One Health, and try to bring all the stakeholders together, define the roles and responsibilities to each stakeholder, and make it happen as a impactful contribution out of this mission to bring in those KSMs and the intermediates that are very much needed for the society's benefit and for the pharma industries, so that they can go economies of scale, which also our Minister Mandavia ji was telling, to make it a developed nation by 2047. I think we can target it for 2030 itself, and then see if we can grow it into an economies of scale and try to increase our economy and GDP, so that we become developed nation by 2030, and if we cannot, at least by 2047 we can assure. So this kind of bridging only they can do. If they could bring all the stakeholders today to talk about the healthcare. They can also initiate and conceive a mission, which we, in a small own bit, we are doing under CSIR. That's not sufficient. It has to be on a larger scale, where the industry also comes on board and tries to formulate this whole mission in a very structured manner with deliverables defined, so that we can target cost competitiveness and innovativeness to patent and then bring it into the market. So if that is possible, then I think while we could do a breakthrough in generics, I can give you one example in generics, what we did from IICT. Now that you ask me, what is that IICT can contribute? One example I would say on the AZT drug, which was for anti-AIDS during the 90s. There was a crisis for so many patients were succumbed to this particular HIV. We came up along with the CIPLA coming on board, and we came up with this AZT drug, which was distributed made completely affordable at 1/10 of the branded drug, so that it was distributed and promoted in African nations, and they all could get benefited out of this. So this can happen only when industry comes together and joins hands with an academia to make that happen as a successful outcome that can reap, the benefits can be reaped by the people who can actually cannot afford branded drugs. So this kind of variation in cost competitiveness can come in if people partner with institutions like us. That's we can
great.
assure.
I think that's great, Shailaja. So because we have heard that only large companies partner with IICTs and IITs.
No need.
So now that you are welcoming even SMEs to come and partner with you, so that's a That's a welcome change.
SMEs and MSMEs have further discount on the technology transfer fee that we offer. On this platform, I would like to inform everyone that when you declare yourself as an MSME, you get straight away 10% discount on the technology fee that CSI Labs offer as a solution to any of your problem statements. And for startups, it is even more, empathetic, I would say, in terms of trying to promote them and give we would be very happy to partner with them at a very lower cost. So eventually the purpose of our institutions is to transfer knowledge which is having the potential of translation and converting into the market and being useful by the society. So that's the main motive.
Great. So great, Dr. Shailaja. So now I have one more question. So we have covered enough about the drug substance and how do we achieve self-sufficiency and then, the best practices that we can adopt. And there is one more thing when we talk about a drug product, it's not just the API which is a major component. So there are so many excipients that we use in the drug product. So today, many times, the excipient cost is almost equivalent to the cost of drug substance, or sometimes it is even more. And we are not talking about self-sufficiency in that area. So how much we are having the self-sufficiency, how many companies in India are producing these high-quality excipients and fine chemicals. So this is something which I think nobody is probably paying the attention. So if we have to achieve the real efficiency, so we should make all components that are needed. So I want Sumathi Rao to probably respond on this.
In this, I would say we have a lot of self-sufficiency now because many Indian companies have also come, learned the technology, and they are producing at a cheaper price. In this, I would also say about the packing. So a lot of Indian companies are coming forward and they have set up the synthetic and the method of analysis. We have also made it cheaper, much cheaper. So, this self-sufficiency should happen probably in a decade or so. And we are also going with the alternatives, as Dr. Ramesh said. We have the excipient owners also prepared by China, so we can afford it now. So, like with the regulated market filings and non-regulated filings, we have standards fixed, and as per standards, we comply to the testing and we keep it open. We are not restricting the manufacturer. As long as the alternative excipients also meet the standards, we can go with alternative sources as well.
Do we have enough manufacturers in India?
Not enough, but in a decade's time, yes, we'll have many more.
So my other question is that whenever you have to develop a generic product, then are you kind of obligated to use the same excipients which are used by the innovator?
The answer is no. If it is for capsule, if it is for tablet and various formulations, you can have more or less any other excipient, because you will be doing a bioequivalence. That is, it is dissolving in the similar fashion as the reference listed drug. Is it getting absorbed in the same way in a patient or in a human volunteer in the same fashion as the innovated drug? That is done. But in the case of injectables, see, there is a game the multinationals also play, to extend the period of profit, from a product. For example, you have made an injectable drug. In the case of injectables, often, you can add a carrier or you can make it a depot injection, means it's a long lasting within the body. And that excipient, is protected by a single manufacturer. Okay, and for you to demonstrate that your excipient is equal to that excipient, it's a very big effort, and in many cases, it cannot be done before the expiration of the patent. So not in 20 years from the date of filing, so in a way, the innovator can extend the life to 25, 30 years, also, depends on the complexity of the excipient. Because if you change the excipient, your drug, even the active one is same, effectively it is considered a new drug, 505(b)(2) in the US. Okay, So that's the challenge, you know. So wherever it is possible for the multinationals, they do introduce this advantage and complexity. Advantage to them, complexity to the competition.
Okay, so that's a challenge now. Okay.
What I was mentioning, Rambabu, is only for oral solids,
Oral
preferably.
solids
And
more
it's
of
widely
India.
used.
Okay.
So oral solids like tablets, capsules, we can go with the thing in a decade. We can expect.
That too for India and ROW market, not for reg market.
No, regulated market also we can go.
Okay.
Because our specs should meet the standard.
Okay.
So Indian companies, you know, like basically inorganics and all, we can make it. Like salts, any salt is used as a excipient. They can all be used.
Okay.
Just as tonifier or, you know, to improve the quality. So those can be used.
Great. So great. I think it was a wonderful discussion. So I thank all of you, Dr. Amol, Dr. Ramesh, Dr. Shailaja, and Sumathi Rao. In fact, it was, I'm sure audience also would have enjoyed this. So we have the way out to become much more cost efficient and still maintain our leadership and bring in some more sustainable practices. Therefore, you know, we increase our efficiency, cost efficiency, and then, you know, increase the safety of these drugs that we produce. And then, you know, also, you know, still maintain our leadership position is what is the objective. So thank you very much for this panel. Yeah, I think any specific questions from audience, because probably, yeah, we have only 5 minutes. We've already exceeded our time. Thank you. Yeah, you're audible. You can be a little louder.
Thank you. As we know that India is called the pharmacy of the world, we have 3,000 organized manufacturers and about 13,000 manufacturing units. And we occupy almost 20% of the US generics. But at the same time, there is also equal quantity of substandard drugs available in Indian market. And it's almost 20% of the drugs which are found substandard in government institutions, and in general it is found about 10%. It is a report from QCI, where they had withdrawn about 50,000 drugs from various markets. So there is a big menace, there is a big issue with the quality of the drugs. Because in 70s, where there was domination of multinational companies like Jain and all big companies, Boots and Lederly, and I remember so many other companies, Hext and all. But that time, even a simple product like terramycin was not available. Even chloramphenicol was not available. So Government of India encouraged the other pharma companies to come into manufacturing. So today there are 13,000 manufacturing units. And out of these 13,000 manufacturing units, only about 500 are US FDA approved, and only about 1,500 are WHO GMP approved. So this being the statistics which is available now, now we are eyeing for API. Now API is very much effluent generated units, and where pollution is a very big issue. Now even in China, where they were to organize the Olympics, they had to shut all the API manufacturing units for a year or so. So it is a known fact that the API manufacturing units that emits a lot of pollution, liquid pollution or air pollution. Now the biggest problem is not it is a cost-effective, affordable API manufacturing, but also taking care of the Mother Earth. And and this forum, it's an excellent panel discussion, and where you have innovative ideas from Dr. Raman or Dr. Shailaja says CSIR. They have come out with many innovative ideas where cost-effective manufacturing is happening. But I suggest that now this forum, because now we are a force to reckon with, where Prime Minister Modi has visited here a few months back, and he understands, and even Dr. Mansuklal Mandavia also has sent a message to us. They also recognize the strength of this institution. Through this institution, we should represent to the Government of India that it is not a choice, but it is a mandatory practice where we have to take utmost care of the emission of the pollutions, and with the industry as well as from the policymakers or the administrators. So we should give a strong recommendation to the government that while going for the cost-effective manufacturing, how we can reduce the pollution. And that is a very important thing. That is my suggestion.
Great. I think the first question about the quality, it will be addressed in tomorrow's panel. There is a dedicated panel to discuss about the quality issues. And the second thing, what you said is absolutely right. The government has already, tightened the norms for pollution. It is the industry which has to now, have the strategies to cope with those requirements and still be cost effective. So that's the idea.
Can I have it?
Yeah.
It can be Mr. Harish also. With due respect to, I don't know the person's name, what he has said. I'll touch the pollution part first and then come to the NSQ of pharma industry. You have two choices, development or pollution. The biggest pollutants are cars. Can we all stop avoiding cars? It's not only the industry. The cars is the biggest pollution on the road. What do we do?
Correct.
So it's wishful thinking. Second thing, as far as NSQ of pharmaceutical industry is concerned, the statistics vary, but it has never been more than 2.3%. Our medicines are available in 200 countries. And we don't need US FDA plants to charge us 10 times the rate which we are paying today. I'm from the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association of Karnataka, Central Association of Institute of Life Sciences, CII, and my own company, Srishti Pharmaceuticals. So we need to weigh out the benefit to that. If you are the world's second largest producer of pharmaceuticals by volume, then I don't think that this label that the quality is not being exercised as small industries is right. It's the contribution of the small industries which has brought this country from an net importer to a net exporter. Harish, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah. Probably we should try to finish it.
I think very first thing why I raised my hand was before he could complete his my fellow delegates thing was I wanted to rebut the statistics what he gave in terms of not of standard quality drugs, around 10%, 20%, the kind of figures what he mooted out. And the 50,000 sample survey which was carried out by CDSCO and NIB few years back clearly demonstrated it's not more than 2 or 3% or maybe maximum 4%.
Correct.
And less than 0.1% of the spurious drugs are available in this country. So what all the news reports which we get in this country, we don't know what are the sources and all that.
Absolutely right.
And we should always look at what is the definition of spurious drugs in the European, as per the Europe is concerned and US is concerned. What can be spurious in their country will be only a kind of a imitation. So sometimes when you flout a patent, and sometimes because our patent laws are different, we flout a patent, they call it as a spurious.
Correct.
So, and second thing is what we call it, in fact, if you look at the not of standard quality norms which are, or the definitions are there in our country are more stringent than what are there in Europe. They call it as a very mild word called as out of specifications. So this is what I wanted to say. And
No, you're absolutely right.
Sorry,
but I think
last thing I'll add on.
No, what I request is the quality related discussion, can we reserve it for tomorrow?
We will.
Because we also need participation in tomorrow's panel.
But people will tell you from the pharma industry, you look at the US FDA website and see what 483s are raised there. We are nothing compared to that. Am I right, sir?
Correct.
Gentleman from Natco would be able to throw light on that.
Ramesh, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the question, you know? Yeah.
From their own plants.
In the US?
Yes.
Yeah, see, yeah. No, right.
Much more than what we have here.
See, true, you know, see, in terms of, you know, manufacturing, all we want is, you know, so 483 is, GMP is a continuous, evolving of the manufacturing process, you know. It's like saying, you know, you manufacture good conditions, guarantee good quality in a predetermined fashion, okay? Just to cite a normal example, you know, you eat in a fantastic restaurant, you eat on the roadside, both may be similar quality. But the inherent assurance may be missing, you know, that is what the US agency seeks. And that is where we have certain challenges, as well as US has got challenges in the US, getting people and adhering to the systems. Because if there is an issue out of specifications, for example, you have got a production target linked to a penalty. Okay, so the employee may get flabbergasted and he may cut corners, for example. Okay, lot of it, you know, simply says, you know, you only define what to do and you follow that. The challenges are also that you are unable to define that in a very practical way. For example, you know, and the compliance becomes, you know, a big challenge. So Indian organizations also have to really be wise actually in what we intend to do to give outstanding quality products, you know, not necessarily what others perceive we should do. Okay, there are guidelines. It is subject to multiple interpretations. We should really understand and implement what works for us.
Thank you, Ramesh.
I think
Yeah.
next question
I think
for
the
I think the lady from Aurobindo
so
was on the
can
functional
we, so
excipients.
we are running out of time. Can we actually, you know, will you permit us to, because there is a pressure from other side also because we have already delayed. Yeah, maybe I think we can take these questions, you know.
Sir, we can take it.
The lunch
Sir, we
and
can
all
take
that,
it offline.
Yeah,
sir.
yeah, please.
We can.
Thank you
move
very
on
much.
to next session. Sorry, sir.
Okay, so now I think I end this panel. So thanks a lot for you know, with your active inputs, and it has been a very good discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for all your wisdom and knowledge that you have shared with us this morning. This discussion was filled with much food for thought, and it was a very interesting session for all of us. May we invite Dr. Padma Shri, Head of Obstetrics and Gynecology at Sri Madhusudan Sai Institute of Medical Sciences and Research, to present a token of appreciation to all our panel members. Dr. Sumathi Rao, Dr. Shailaja Donempudi, Mr. Rambabu, Dr. Ramesh Dandala, Dr. Amol Kulkarni. We now request all the panel members to pose for a group photograph. Thank you.
Hello and welcome back to the second session. Myself Ujjwal, currently pursuing first year MBBS at Sri Madhusudan Sai Institute of Medical Sciences and Research. Continuing on the theme of sustainable growth through innovation in the pharma industry, this session will focus on the topic of value creation through product innovation. We'll begin with a keynote address by Mr. Sudarshan Jain, Secretary General of the Indian Pharmaceutical Alliance. He brings over 40 years experience serving in many leadership positions at Abbott, Johnson & Johnson, and a number of Indian pharmaceutical companies. Mr. Sudarshan has also served as a Vice President of Organization of Pharmaceutical Producers of India, representing research-based pharmaceutical companies. Mr. Sudarshan Jain, sir.
Good afternoon to all of you. Pranam to this divine institution, Sadhguruji, Sri Madhusudan Saiji, all my friends from the Indian industry, students, academic community, and all here who are interested and stakeholders in healthcare. Healthcare is a very noble profession, and basically all of us are in the business of serving humanity. G20 announced India's intention, one word, one family, one health, and also talked about universal healthcare. What I'd like to do in this brief 15 to 20 minutes, because I know I'm speaking before lunch and all of you are waiting for lunch, but I would like to focus on making healthcare accessible, affordable, equitable, leading to universal healthcare. I will cover 3 areas: importance of healthcare, but I would like to put some fact around it and looking at healthcare from a new perspective. Second area, I would like to talk on challenges and opportunity. And then I will lay down on the 5 steps which India is going to play going forward. And the way I look at it, that India is going to be the healthcare custodian of the world going forward. I'd like to thank Venugopal, who invited me here, and my friend Vivek, who is here, who made sure that I'm present here. If we look at healthcare, healthcare is an investment, not a social expenditure, because the very many times when we start looking healthcare as an education, as a social expenditure, we start containing about it. But if we start looking at investment, it gives a very different connotation. What I'd like to present here is some of the work which we have done at IPA in terms of research work, putting various thought together, and at IIM Ahmedabad, and at my previous association, OPPI. And I'm trying to put the thought together to come with the concept of Vasudev Kutumbakam. Healthcare has got extreme economic impact, and the work which has been done, I've tried to collate it. It has got 2.7% points impact on the GDP, 1% increase in healthcare on the innovation score. And that's why Australian government just came out with a report that 1% increase in innovation cost will lead to 3.5% increase in productivity. So whatever economic indicator you do, healthcare will lead to increased innovation. Healthcare will lead to 1.25% productivity growth of a nation, and 1% increase in life expectancy will result in 6% increase in total GDP in the long run. It is common sense, but once you start putting numbers to what we do, we try to shape the policy environment better. And important thing is going forward is, whether we like it or not, India has to increase expenditure in healthcare, and fortunately, we have got the health minister and we have got the prime minister and the government, which is inclined that healthcare, India can be the custodian of healthcare around the world. Everyone in the inaugural session and even Sadhguru talked about sustainable development goal. First goal is poverty, second is education, and the third is healthcare. We are way behind that goal at this particular moment. We are at 20 to 30%. And if we have to grow as a nation, as a society, it is not only words, it is in terms of action. And I like the idea when Sadhguru ji was talking about this kind of platform, get all stakeholders together, and we work on the agenda to move forward in our own respective field. I'll quote this study from, so one is, it's important. Second area is the concept of healthcare has moved away. Previously, good health meant absence of sickness, but today good health means wellness. And this is a study which is by McKinsey, was released around a year back, that although we have contributed significantly, the healthcare stakeholders, hospitals, advances in healthcare, medicine, the lifespan in last 19 years has gone up from 54 years to 73 years. But the number of people who are sick continues to be 50%. Because previously it was acute illness, but now chronic illness and degenerative diseases have become much more common. So if we look at healthcare, and if we just keep on increasing the age and economic prosperity, we will not lead to healthy nation, because at the end of the day, more than 50% will keep on suffering from healthcare. This is a monumental work. We are using this across the world. We presented this at WHO conference recently, that whole concept of healthcare has to go a fundamental change. As far as India healthcare challenges are concerned, 2.1% last year, but primarily it was because of the increase in expenditure on COVID. Otherwise, we have got measly 1.2% of GDP we are spending on healthcare. Last year, self-pay market, out-of-pocket expenditure decreased from 65% to 48%, but still it is very high. 48% of us rely on out-of-pocket expenditure compared to, say, 18 to 20% in most of the countries around the world. Dual burden of disease, we have got elderly population, 12% of the elderly population, and there the cost of healthcare is relatively high. In fact, there is a lot of work which has been done. Geriatric medicine is one of the courses which is being started, but we will see a lot happening in that area. And also, there is a population less than 25 which have got different kind of issues. Shift is from acute to chronic illness and also degenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. All of us who have got old parents, we are aware of the issues which are impacting. There is high degree of inequity in healthcare today. 80% of the doctors are in urban markets, serving 28% of India's population. These are the challenges. But a lot is being done in last 3 years, and I will talk about it. We did one of the biggest study in healthcare, just to understand the concept, because many of the times we keep on saying that it is only affordability. And some of the wrong notions are that if you keep the medicine cost low, it will solve the problem of healthcare. This was one of the big work which was done. Vivek is here at OPPI when we presented it, largest study done in this country and perhaps largest in the world, that if we have to make access to healthcare, it is not only pricing of medicine, somehow very, very wrong concept. We have to build physical proximity of the healthcare facility available. Even if we build physical proximity, unless the equipments are available, X-ray machines should be available, proper, even the table and chair which is there, because I was told, I also work with Indian Institute of Healthcare Management and Research, even sitting table, chair, Wi-Fi facilities are not there. So availability and capacity, quality and functioning, half of the time these machines don't work. So you have got a doctor, sometimes doctor is not there, sometimes even the doctor is there, the machines are not working. And sometimes if the table is there, half of the time table one leg is not there. So one of the person, I was doing a program in UP with the district healthcare officer. He said, "Jain साहब आप सब भूल जाइए, हमारा केवल टेबल चेयर का तो प्रबंध करवा दीजिएगा." Right? So affordability is the last step. So if we want to see 4 dimensions of healthcare, physical accessibility, very, very important. Making sure that these, and we will use a lot of these concepts in Ayush Bharat wellness centers. In fact, we have started doing some kind of research, how we can make it work better, and quality and functioning of those places, and affordability is important, but not the end of it. Coming to the opportunity, we talk to the challenges. In fact, we are the most fortunate, and we are sitting at this particular moment at the inflection point. Great demographic advantage, average age 28 years, 65% of India's population less than 35 years. Great advantage of Amrit Kal period, next 25 years, where we will have working population which will be highest in the world. It is already showing, if I see this year economic growth 6.2%, double the economic growth of average economic growth of the world of around 2.1%. And I was here in one economic presentation yesterday. Next year, again, the economic growth is around 6.2%, much ahead of China. So there will be a lot of investment which will be coming here, and healthcare will be an important concept. Second big advantage is the STEM talent. 110,000 doctors. I remember many of the times when we used to talk around 5, 6 years back, 7 years back, we used to have 30,000 doctors coming from India. But the kind of capacity which has been built up, I will talk of 4 concepts: capacity, capability, character, and culture, which Sadhguru was talking about. Yes, we have moved further as far as capacity is concerned. 110,000 doctors, 400,000 pharmacy students, 1.5 million engineering students coming out of here. India is known as pharmacy of the world, lowest prices of the drug around the world. There is conducive policies, and we have also built enabling structure of CDMOs. We have built many of the knowledge centers. In fact, Bangalore and Hyderabad, many of the companies are setting up knowledge centers. We have also got the advantage, many of the times we don't realize, we have been the providers. In fact, I was hearing in the earlier presentation, HIV medicines, Cipla, brought the medicine when the cost of therapy was, Dr. Shailaja was talking about, $12,000, $1 a day. When I was talking to Dr. Hamid, when he was there last week, he said that we did that kind of change. In fact, South Africa, when we go, Dr. Hamid is treated like a god. And same thing we are trying to do in oncology medicine. We are trying to do insulins, $1 a day. In fact, Biocon started the concept of $1 a day. We will see a lot of changes which are happening because accessibility, cost, we are making a big difference. 100% eradication of polio, 60% of vaccine is supplied from India. And a great example, like who could have imagined that vaccine can be developed in 12 months' time and India can be custodian of its own health? Because everyone was predicting in the world that we spend only 1.2% of money on healthcare. Every third patient, when I started my entry into the healthcare field in 1975, we used to import everything in the world. 80% of medicines were imported. Dr. Buckley is here. When D.B. Gupta came and told me that he will be the largest in TB drugs in the world, I couldn't believe in that time. But I said, C.K. Pilar said that why don't you join him? But at this particular moment of time, we are contributing 20% to the world. The world depends upon us as far as medicine is concerned. That's the big change. We have made big progress in Made in India, but now we have to go to Discover in India. Some of the work which we have done in International Generic and Biosimilar Association, most of the parts of the world, 80% of the world medicine is supplied from generic manufacturers, which 40% comes, 20% comes from India. So we are the custodian, healthcare custodian of the world. This is the latest data we have just released at WHO conference last week, that it is not only innovator drugs, it is the generic drugs from India which make difference to the healthcare, and we are the custodian of healthcare of the world. I will just talk about this. In the COVID times, India established its position as healthcare provider of the world. I remember 24th of March when it was announced that COVID will be there, work from home will be there. All leading IPA CEOs used to meet every day 10 to 10:30 and make sure that the medicines are available. Many of us were working from home, but there were workers who were working, making sure that the medicines are available. We were not conscious of profitability at that time. We were making sure which part of the world you can get remdesivir less than $1. When the vaccine is costing $25, Indian manufacturers, they supply at $2. When some of the companies were talking of surgeon right to this country as far as vaccine supply is concerned, there were companies in India which made sure that the vaccines are available. And who could have imagined that 2.2 billion people are given vaccines? 2.2 billion vaccination is done. When you go to a government vaccine center, the availability of syringe, availability of person, and your COVID certificate comes back. It is impossible to imagine. And if we can get same kind of commitment to our public institution today, that will be a wonderful dream. In fact, I was talking to Dr. Mansukh Bhai last week that, sir, how could we do it that there was no supply in any of the vaccination center? Certificate used to come automatically. And we made sure I could take one vaccine at Delhi, another at Bombay, third one at Bangalore, because everything was connected. This is the kind of thing which we have achieved and we should be proud of. In fact, that has come out as one of the case studies at IIM Ahmedabad, because we didn't want to lose the learnings going forward. Having said that, yes, there is inequity in healthcare. Yes, we have to go a long way forward. Yes, there is problem of capability at this particular moment. Yes, there are issues of quality at some of the areas. However, this is the inflection point for India, and what will make the difference is the combination of three factors. One is digitalization. We have got tremendous advantage. We will have demographic advantage. We are a learning nation because young population, and we believe in democratization of healthcare. These three areas will make the difference. 5 areas, a lot of work which is going on, and a lot will happen coming forward. First big initiative, Ayushman Bharat, and we have got a lot of hopes, 160,000 wellness centers which are being created. And the focus will not be only on treatment. Focus will be on the holistic health, where you are talking of all aspects, because health is not only treatment, health is physical, mental, and spiritual. And wellness centers will create that kind of capacity. It will require a lot of capacity building. In fact, we at IPA are working with some of the wellness centers to understand what can be done. Can we develop pilots and SOPs to take this whole agenda forward? And if we create 160,000 wellness centers, the concept which I talked of, holistic healthcare, physical proximity, availability, capability building, and affordability will make a difference. Second is Ayushman Bharat Digital Health Mission. We are talking of digitalization, where the facilities are there, who are the manufacturers. At this particular moment, we don't know who are these 10,500 manufacturers, what products they are making, where they are sold. So it is a black box. A lot of work which is being done today, National Digital Health Mission. We will see a lot happening. In fact, Drug Controller of India, he's talking of risk-based audit, and we will see a lot happening as far as that area is concerned. That is the second big step which is being taken. Third big step is Jan Aushadhi Yojana, 10,000 stores at this particular moment. They will go to 25,000 stores. And again, there the work is being done in improvement of the quality of the medicines which are being done. A lot is being done. Health Minister himself is involved. In fact, Prime Minister announced this in his Independence Day speech, that 10,000 will go to 25,000. In terms of pharma industry, what has happened in last 3 years, we have got Harish Jain, who is also sitting here. He represents FOP. The number of schemes which have been announced. Yes, improvement can be done, but there is the initiative on the part of the government to move forward. PLI 1 on API, the point which earlier session was talking about, ASMs, KSMs, we are talking about there. PLI 2, building on the big companies which can play a vital role. going forward. Research scheme has been announced. There are some incremental innovation. Harish has given the suggestion, but we will move forward. So there is a lot of work which has been done. Innovation, there is a next panel which is coming in, which is an important kind of thing. A lot of work which is required to be done, although we are at an early stage in all this, but there is a lot of discussion which is taking place. All association, all industry leaders, they are part of that discussion. And the last part, overall, there has to be shift in terms of treatment to wellness. That requires overall shift globally, and India should become the custodian of one. I will conclude by saying these are 5 roadmaps. I can talk for hours together. One has been part of various initiatives, but we are on the right path. India can play a very important role to improve not only India's healthcare outcomes, but global healthcare outcomes with the theme Vasudev Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Thank you very much, and to the organizers.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your insights with us. We may now request Dr. A.G. Kulkarni, Head of the Department of Community Medicine, to offer a token of appreciation to Mr. Sudarshan Jain. We will now begin the second technical session of the day. Continuing as the moderator, we have Rambabu of Pulse Pharma. On the panel, we have Dr. Akhil Kumar, Chief Medical Officer at Origin. After completing his MBBS from AIIMS New Delhi in 1995, he completed his residency training in internal medicine and clinical fellowship in hematology and oncology from the Rutgers Cancer Institute of the New Jersey. He also works with the cross-functional teams like pharmacology, pharmacokinetics, and toxicology. Dr. Devraj Rambabu, Director of Innovation and Scientific Affairs at Pulse Pharma. He spearheads the company's drive for the product innovation, taking the lead in utilizing nanomaterial sciences to create groundbreaking robust technologies. Dr. Dhananjay Bakle is an expert in medico-marketing and medico-legal issues. He has been a veteran in the field of pharmaceutical medicine for the last 3 decades. He has also served as WHO's Technical Research Advisory Group for the TB in the past. Mr. Harish Jain is the Managing Director of the Embiotic Laboratories Private Limited. Harish Jain is also the President of Karnataka Drug and Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association. He plays a pivotal role in establishing of Karnataka Pharma Park. Over to the moderator, Mr. Rambabu, sir.
Thank you. So, in fact, this is the session I was supposed to moderate. The previous session came to me as a bonus. Somebody dropped out, so I was pulled in the last minute. Okay, so this is the session which I am really passionate about. The innovation, product innovation is something which we are all talking about. So now the previous session talked about serving the unserved and reaching the unserved through accessibility and affordability. And this session talks about this session talks about solving the unsolved. So we have to innovate. We have to develop drugs to solve some unsolved medical problems. So that is all about this session. So I have now Dr. Akhil, who is involved into this drug discovery research, and I have Dr. Rambabu, who is an expert in drug delivery research. Then I have Dr. Dhananjay, who is involved into clinical research. Then, of course, Dr. Harish, who is, of course, like me, he must be, master of, he must be into everything. So now I think Dr. Rambabu actually has got his flight to catch, so I will probably start my discussion with Dr. Rambabu himself, so that the drug delivery part is something that we will talk, and then maybe if it is getting extended, he may leave in between, and then we will continue our session. So, okay. So now, when we have to talk about drug delivery research, today, there is no concept of drug delivery in India. It is not well recognized. In US, there is a concept called 505(b)(2). So there are branded generics. So the drug delivery research focuses on repurposing the old drugs into new dosage forms or for a new clinical condition they are being studied, and they get a status of a brand, whereas the generic drugs, they don't get they are unbranded generics. So here it is the same old drugs, which are well-proven drugs. We try to repurpose them through the delivery technologies, or sometimes just doing a additional clinical trial for a new clinical indication is what we do. But in India, we don't have many such examples. Pulse is probably one of the very few companies who have ventured into this journey of differentiating the products through drug delivery technologies. We have developed a host of proprietary technologies, and Dr. Rambabu has been spearheading these projects, and we have a very good team with us, and we have been focusing only on drug delivery technologies. So I would ask now Dr. Rambabu about how he sees this opportunity in India for drug delivery technologies. How big is the opportunity that he would consider?
Thank you, sir. At the outset, I bow before the holy feet of Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai, also Sri Madhusudan Sai. I am privileged to be here into this holy place, first of all. Thank you, sir. Now, coming to the question, since morning, and even I have heard the Holy Soul by Madhusudan Sai Garu, that we want to resolve the problems of the people. We want to afford the health to the people. So India is a developing country yet, although we may become a superpower, but we are in the stage of actually development. So if you look at these synthetic drugs have played a great role all over the globe as well as in India. And we became luckily the leaders of synthetic drugs, and we are today the biggest pharma industry all over the world, second biggest. Now, old drugs have a time-tested efficacy problems. Efficacy has been proved by the old drugs. But fortunately or unfortunately, every synthetic molecule will have two dimensions. One is a positive therapeutic dimension, beneficial effect. There is a toxic effect. To simplify the whole story, there is no synthetic drug or any drug, particularly synthetic drug, devoid of complete side effects, devoid of complete adverse effects, devoid of complete toxicity, impossible. So therefore, now today, the challenge is taken by the drug delivery people to regenerate the old molecule, that to put into, resolve the problems which is associated with this by using the technology. So particularly, sir, this kind of technology is much more useful for the country like India, where we cannot immediately produce. This morning, so many learned people were telling, we cannot produce a biological, we cannot produce a nucleotide, we cannot produce a biological medicine, we cannot produce biotechnology-based medicine so easily. But I tell you frankly, even these biological medicines or biotechnology or nucleotide, RNAs, etc., coming, but their delivery is again a challenge. So therefore, the delivery fellows will have a biggest livelihood in the future, because you cannot so easily administer a peptide or a protein or a nucleotide so easily without using the novel technology. So to sum up your question, sir, huge opportunity for a developing country like India, a huge population, mammoth population of the world, and we are capable of doing it. And sir, you know very well, this country is the first country to produce two novel drug delivery platforms like liposomal doxorubicin pegylated, done by Sun Pharma, Natco Pharma. I had the privilege to spearhead Natco Pharma also. I was the person who was doing this. Then also nanopaclitaxel, etc. So therefore, we have not only me, many of people have a huge of talent potential here. So therefore, there is a lot of opportunity for India to get into the novel drug delivery system, and that will be the cheapest way, because today drug discovery costs into billions of dollars and takes at least a decade of time from that perspective.
Yes, sir, I have a supplementary question for you. So, okay, while we consider this is the most cost-effective way of development of new drugs, but there are some challenges which I want you to, dwell into. So, like, whenever you develop a new delivery format, first of all, you have a regulatory challenge, because the regulator does not, there are no clearly defined regulations for these kind of, when you use a new formulation technology. So for a new drug, there is a clearly defined clinical pathway. For a new technology-oriented products, a delivery system, so there is no clearly laid down regulatory system. So that is one challenge that we have. And the second challenge that we have is about IP. So for a new drug, you will get a very clear IP because it's a new molecule. But here the molecule is old, but you are putting this molecule into a new delivery system. So you will have a lot of challenges with regard to securing an IP for this kind of products. So how do you address those challenges?
Yes, sir, you're right. And the one more important dimension, sir, you also are aware of that, is the third is the cost. I will come to that point also.
Is yes.
So there are three dimensions. You are absolutely right, sir. When you are talking about, when you are actually imagining to go for sophisticated drug delivery systems, now I will, in a nutshell, define them. We call today particle, nanotechnology-based drug delivery system, or liposomes, which are lipidic nanoparticles only. Both of them come under the broad category of nano. Now, first of all, the regulatory challenges can be addressed and can be easily answered by the intelligent and properly researched kind of investigator. Because, so today, when I make a nanoparticle, what material I am using? If that material is already in approval, when that material can be metabolized and biodegradable by your body, there is no harm. So we can easily convince. So that way, sir, in the US FDA also, when I worked in Natco, we convinced, we unearthed a new method than whatever is existing in by the time. And they accepted that method. They accepted the materials also. So the question is very simple, sir. But one thing is sure, if your excipient itself is toxic, and you are using that excipient in a disproportionate quantities, which can bring about alarming side effects, then absolutely your whole purpose is lost. And one thing I want to put it here, the first nanotechnology has been applied to address the toxicity issue. Why doxorubicin liposomal nano system? Because it is a wonderful anti-cancer drug. It can treat effectively the cancer. But the biggest menace of this molecule, it is highly, highly cardiotoxic. Therefore, by a technology, we call it a site-specific delivery technology. If I can deliver the molecule of the doxorubicin only at the cancer site, I have done the job, sir. Yes. I have done the job. So therefore, sir, regulators will listen unless and until there is a myth in the whole world and some underdeveloped world, nanoparticles are toxic. But what kind of nanoparticle is toxic? Is a very important question to be asked. See, your drug molecule is by itself is time-tested molecule. Suppose tomorrow I make a salicylic acid nanoparticle, everybody is dying. Now salicylic acid doesn't need any special certification by anybody about its toxicity. It is well known. If I'm making for example, I'm telling, if I'm making, so therefore, toxicity of the drug you keep aside. The second question is only what we are using. Now, why this myth prevailed in the entire developing, even highly developed countries is metallic nanoparticles are highly toxic because the biological system doesn't have the method of actually metabolizing them. They are like a hard rocks inside the biological system. Therefore, everybody said because of that, every nanoparticle is, it's not, sir. There are so many biodegradable polymers. Most of the products which are put in the market today, sir, either they are protein, for example, nanopaclitaxel. It's a protein-based one. And that protein also human protein, human serum albumin, bound nanoparticles. So where is the toxicity issue? And the second liposomal doxorubicin, it is made up of phospholipid, which is a component of cell wall of every living system. Every cell wall contains phospholipid. So where is the toxicity? Therefore, sir,
only one this thing is that yes, as you said, the US kind of market, the regulators are quite evolved, and there are quite a good number of formulations which are already approved. So there they have a clearly, at least near to clearly laid down guidelines. But the developing markets, we still have a challenge about what kind of guidelines that we need to follow.
But sir, you know very well, sir, even today India has come out with the nano guidelines.
Yeah,
you
of
know
course,
very
India,
well,
yes,
sir,
yes, it has come out.
Not for the sake of proud or anything, but for the sake of pleasure of telling it. Even the company which is spearheaded as the managing director by Rambabu, we are the people to supply according to the guidelines set by the government of India, that is DCGI. We have actually filed nano products, and our nano product is almost cleared now. Any day we can get that product to be released in market regulatory. Therefore, sir, even Indians are super fast in that level. because of a lot of intellectual
Yeah,
pool.
yeah, I know. India definitely,
So
we have quite evolved, and we have been able to approve vaccines in a record time. So we are able to learn things and do things faster. But the question comes about some of the developing markets. When we take these products, they don't understand anything, and they see this as something which is not heard of, and then they kind of put a lot of questions. So that is the challenge which I'm talking about. Anyway, so I mean, so yes, this is something that we have to swim through.
Yes, we have to swim through.
Go along.
One day they will also take the same medicine, because if it becomes, there are also poor people in America, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Even once they feel that this product is working and it is affordable, everybody will fall for it. One day Americans have to. They are purchasing.
So the second question is about IP. Can you just little
yes,
quickly?
sir. You're absolutely right, sir. Two issues. I will take only 1 minute. IP is a very big challenge. The problem is the excipients that we are using. I cannot create a new excipient in my nano product. Same excipient. So those excipients are also present in the normal product. So everybody says, no, I have already. Suppose I make a nano suspension. I definitely have to use a structured vehicle, a viscosifying agent to stop the sedimentation of my product also. So they'll say, no, we have already taken a patent on that particular product. But that will not come into the way, because you are telling your primary product is different and your primary composition is different. So in an independent claim, you can put viscosifying agent can be added if required, colors can be added, flavors can be added, like that. But anyhow, sir, today there is a huge jargon of competition, particularly in the drug delivery area. I fully agree with you. The last but not the least, I always used to show on a small ball, an elephant standing. That is a synonym. I always show an analogy. Technology is very sophisticated, sir, what we are doing. How do you scale it up to be highly cost effective is the biggest challenge. It's the biggest challenge. But I tell you, sir, you know very well, in our company, and even when I worked in Natco and other companies in nano products, we have Indianized the technology. We have brought the Indianization of the technology. We have indigenously evolved the methods of producing. Even I tell you, Pulse Pharma, we have today a technology which doesn't really involve the cost of capex, involving millions and billions of dollars. We are making it cost effectively, and that is the biggest challenge for all young minds, young researchers. There is huge talent in this country, sir. I'm an old man, so many young people will come tomorrow who will do the job needfully.
So I think our motto at Pulse Pharma is very simple, that we want to produce innovative drugs with superior clinical benefits at an affordable premium. So we don't want to charge the patient 10x, 20x or 50x. We just want to charge maximum 1.5x, 2x of the generic drug. So that is the kind of objective that we have taken. So we always look at how do we produce these formulations at a cost-effective manner, because at the end of the day, they have to cater to a large population. Okay, that's the objective that we have taken. I think we have been successful so far, because the candidates that we have selected, the drug candidates, or the technologies that we have been working are such. We have not gone into very complex kind of technologies. And so that is one thing, because the pricing is a very, very critical issue. Even when you have to market with a very super premium pricing, so the customers would not prefer those kind of products, because the generic drug is available at throwaway price, and then you can't sell it at a super premium. So that's not possible. So keeping these things in mind, so we always consciously develop the products which are cost effective. So that's something, thanks a lot. I think, so you have addressed some of the queries related to drug delivery. So, sir, now I think, so if you, whenever you want to leave, you can leave. So now I think I'll go to drug discovery part. Okay, now I don't want you to have any stress of the time. Okay, and now the drug discovery. So Dr. Akhil Kumar. So now I was just having a chat with him before. Yeah, you can, sir. You can. Yeah. So it should have been the other order, actually. First drug discovery, then drug delivery. So we reverse the order. So the drug discovery part is the bigger part of the cake. Today in US, I was referring to the numbers, almost 80+% of revenue comes from the innovative products. So remaining 20% is shared by the unbranded generics and branded generics, so which is almost like 10% each. So the major revenue in reg markets or matured market happens through the innovative products. When it comes to India, of course, the picture is completely different, but we cannot stay away from this game. So it is time that we have to get into this, innovation-driven drug development model. Yeah, you can do. Yeah. Sorry, I think we'll just take a break.
Sorry to interrupt. We will now felicitate Dr. Devaraj Rambabu, Director of Innovation and Scientific Affairs at Pulse Pharma. To felicitate, we have our Vasudev Upadhyaya sir, Medical Superintendent, Sri Satya Sai Memorial Hospital.
So now, this drug discovery game is a game of, it's a very expensive game, and it needs deep pockets. Very large companies can afford this. So this is the kind of understanding all of us we have. But the fact is that in developed markets, a lot of startup companies are actually doing so much of discovery. Not the big pharma is doing this. Big pharma will actually acquire these products at a particular stage. But usually, the discovery projects are actually being handled by startup companies. This is the reality. And that's, of course, now we have started seeing that happening in India also. A lot of startup companies, particularly in biotech space, it's happening. Now, we have Dr. Akhil. So they have been Origin, which is a group company of Dr. Reddy's. So they have been working in drug discovery space. And of course, Dr. Akhil is not only working in small molecules, but they are working in large molecules also. They are working in the latest area of the cell and gene therapy in biotech space. So that's something which is interesting. So I would first ask you about the small molecules. So first of all, for India, so what is the right strategy? Should we bet on the small molecules, or should we go to the large molecules? So have we missed the bus for small molecules already? Because there is enough that has been explored in this space.
So first of all, thank you, Dr. Rambabu, and I'm very, very happy to be here today. So thanks to you all. I see a lot of students also here. So that's wonderful that all of you are attending this conference as well. So coming back to the question on small molecules, Origin traditionally has been a small molecule company. So when we started in 2004, we started working on small molecules. We think that we know how to develop small molecules. So far, among all the different small molecules we have developed, 18 of them are in clinical trials. So a lot of them. Within India, we are probably the largest one to put innovative molecules into the clinic. So far, we have not had any drug commercially approved yet. We do have molecules in different stages of development, phase 1, phase 2, and one in phase 3 as well, which is an oral checkpoint inhibitor, oral PD-L1 inhibitor. All of us know about how immuno-oncology has evolved in benefiting cancer patients, and we have a first-in-class oral PD-L1 inhibitor. So coming back to your question, each one of these modalities would have their space. Be that small molecules, be that antibodies. Now we have bispecific antibodies, which can engage the T cells to its target cell. We have ADCs where the antibody attaches to the cancer cell, and then there's a chemotherapy attached to it. And then there's a cell and gene therapy. So what we believe that each one of them have their space. Small molecules are not going to go away. Now, the kind of benefit we see from biologics is definitely much more. So whenever we see an oral molecule and a biologic, be that, let's say, take the example of HER2. We have 2 oral drugs approved against HER2, and we have a fair number of biologics, including Herceptin. When you look at the efficacy of biologics, that's definitely more. So when you look from small molecules to antibodies, then to ADCs, which are antibody drug conjugates, to bispecifics, and then you come to cell and gene therapy, your response rates gradually increases. So where traditional chemotherapies used to give us 30-35% response as a single agent, antibodies commonly give us 40-45%, and bispecific give us 65-70%, and cell and gene therapy now are giving more than 80%. So that's what made us interested in cell and gene therapy. However, coming to question, I don't think small molecules are going to go away. We'll keep on working on small molecules. Probably a bigger proportion of novel innovative drugs would come from biologics, which does mean that we have to enter into this space. Looking into our own journey, we went from small molecules directly to cell and gene therapy and biospecifics. So we are also working in biospecifics, while actually we're going to start a clinical trial this month for our CAR-T, for our cell and gene therapy study, which actually would be the first in India for patients with multiple myeloma. So I think we skipped, as a company, we skipped a generation. Yeah. We should have realized about 10 years ago, or maybe 15 years ago, that we should enter antibodies as well. We didn't. I think it was only after seeing the space grow so much, and now seeing the success of cell and gene therapies, that we gave it a very, very serious thought. So I think my own opinion is each one of these would have their places, but the novel therapies with antibodies, bispecifics, they're clearly showing that they're more effective. So any new company or any big company who's investing, I'm sure they would not do the kind of journey which we did over past 15 years, where we kept focusing on a small molecule for good 15 years. Until 2 years ago, when we really became serious on biologics.
Good. That's good. I think, yeah, that's I think a right thing to do, because you're already late. It's better you get into the right spot, you know. Okay. So now, Dr. Harish, I just want to ask you, do you think this innovation space is something that every company in India should pursue? Because now the government is continuously pushing this agenda. Even other day, our Honorable DCJ said that, you know, innovation should happen at a mass scale, not, you know, very selectively. So do you think that we should push this agenda, even small and medium companies should also join this
I think before I start, I'd like to say Sadguru Madhusudan Sai ke charno pe koti koti vandan. And thank you for giving me opportunity to address you all. Now coming to the innovation, I think the whole innovation has become a kind of a revolution since the Prime Minister announced from the Red Fort last year. And this has been picked up by every industry, and this innovation is, I would say, much more relevant to the Indian pharmaceutical industry than any other industry if you are talking about in this country. And I've been always a fan of innovation, and generally when we talk about innovation, we always think it can be only some kind of a new product or a new chemical entity or some kind of a thing. What I think in the previous panel discussion also we mentioned about the kind of innovation you can do on the process as well.
Yes.
I will give an example what our company did way back around more than 25 years back. And we had a very sensitive product, it's a mass product, very sensitive product called ranitidine. Now, of course, it has fallen into the bad times. But then we had a product called ranitidine, and we were making by a non-aqueous granulation. And tablet weight was for a 168 mg active ingredient, we were making a product which is for 300 milligram per tablet, film coating, strip packing and all that. And we worked with one of the Hyderabad API companies, and that with my basic knowledge, BPharm knowledge on angle of repose and the flow properties and all, we were able to develop a process where we could do on a direct compression method. A 168 milligram tablet, we were able to get a final weight of 180 milligram. You can imagine the kind of benefit it brought to us in terms of the amount of time required for manufacturing. These are the kind of example what I'm talking about, what we did around 25 years back. The amount of the production cost decreased, the cost of film coating reduced, the cost of packaging material, and overall we were able to reduce our cost by 20% on a competitive product. And a small company, I think Dr. Jagshetty, who is the drugs controller, who is sitting here, and me being a small company, in that year, we made 80 million tablets in an area where my factory was 4,000 square feet. Okay. And those days it was called as a matchbox factory, and it was okay. So these are the innovation, the kind of benefit it can, and it's not that, what I want to emphasize is innovation can be a revolution. It's not that small companies should not be doing it. And if you see in this country, even in the most of these innovative products which are there in the market, have been brought about by MSMEs, not by big companies and startups. In fact, innovation has been always kind of a thing. We have many manufacturers who are small companies who started tiny. The kind of innovations what they have done has been revolutionized. I can give you, if you can talk to me, around 100 examples where our manufacturers have done this kind of innovation, where they brought a new life to the product which is already dead. I'm a very big fan of this Ahmedabad-based company where something called as a Troika Pharmaceuticals, and where they have pushed multinational away from that pain management injectable space. I don't want to name the product, but these are the kind of innovations which are capable. In fact, last week, me and Sudarshan Jain were part of a jury, and there was one company who had brought about on an investment of 4 million, and the first year they did a business of 200 million, and still not reached US. Still the registration is pending and will come through very soon. So these are the kind of benefits you can't even, in fact, if you talk to me, I'm not a fan of a new chemical entity or a new biological entity for India at this current context, because the kind of expenses which are involved and the kind of risks which are involved. I give you, I think we all talk about $2 billion of investment for a new chemical entity with a success rate of less than 1%. Do you want to go with that? And innovation, it doesn't require money. It requires an idea. It requires an idea. You understand what is the need of your patient. What is the need of with patient-centric approach, I'm sure the innovation doesn't require money. So every Indian company, whether it's a small, tiny, I think cannot today work without innovation if you have to grow.
Absolutely. I think that's well said. Basically, innovation can be done in different spaces, not necessarily always a new drug development. So, we can improve the process efficiency, we can improve the cost efficiency, we can actually make a small differentiation in the formulation, incremental innovation can be done, and that can result into some better clinical benefits or patient compliance. So that also makes a lot of sense.
In fact, I would like to add some of the, we talk about fixed dose combinations, and which are, India has been beaten black and blue with the whole, by saying we have so much of fixed dose combination. Correct. But imagine for elderly patients, a diabetic, he has a diabetes, he has a cardiac problem, and if he has to take 20 tablets a day, imagine his mindset.
Yeah, absolutely.
And instead of that, you combine a drug with, of course, with all the data, safety, efficacy data, and you give him only 4 tablets a day. Imagine the kind of happiness it brings to him. So absolutely. These are some of these things.
That Western world seem to have taken this idea from India. Now I am seeing more fixed dose combinations getting approved in the US also.
I give you, when this fixed dose combination issue was high on the agenda of Government of India way back in 2012, AstraZeneca came out with a product called Vimovo, and you'll be shocked. This kind of a concept was, the one company in India had brought in, and they were like degraded into the public mind, and this Vimovo is a combination of a painkiller with an antacid. Correct. And it became a blockbuster.
Correct.
So this is what I'm talking about. So not only for a fixed dose combination, we are also have sustained release formulations. We have the injectable formulation, what we talked about, and way back in almost in 1990s, where I was a part of a team which we developed in a company in Delhi, dispersible tablet formulations. I think the previous speaker talked about how do we convince the regulators about the specifications. I think what we need to convince the regulator is what is the kind of improvement we have done on that generic drug, and what is our objective, and to meet that objective, what is our specifications are there. I think that solves the problem.
Great, great. So now I have a question for you, Dr. Dhananjay. So now whether you do a new drug or whether you do a change in the formulation, this is also now considered as a new drug. So subsequent new drug, we call it in India. So both of them have to be clinically proved. So the efficacy or safety has to be proved. Okay, safety may not be so much a concern for a new formulation, but efficacy has to be proved. Right. So now comes the role of clinical research. Right. The clinical development in India, so there are some, we seem to have improved a lot over years, but we still do not have a very organized kind of, structure here when it comes to the kind of the facilities that we have, the sites, the clinical sites, or even the investigator mindset, or even the patient mindset for that matter. So other day I was listening to somebody in, some government official in Belgium. They were saying that the government there encourages their patients to voluntarily participate in the clinical trials so that they get the benefit of a new drug, at a lesser cost, at sometimes no cost. And then, so they also the new drug is developed and then, it results into economic growth. But in India, I think a lot of patients, they have reservation for participating in the clinical trial. So what has been your experience in your journey of clinical development?
Thanks. At the outset, I want to thank Vivek Patgaonkar and Mr. Venugopal for inviting me here. And I think I was really privileged after listening to the Sadhguru, that this is the place where a lot of things are happening and will continue to happen thanks to Rambabu. I think you asked a very relevant question, and the people in India have always wondered why do we need clinical trials, because they saw that as some kind of a monster. And that is simply because we didn't have the patent rules in India, and therefore we didn't have to go through the difficult hurdle of clinical trials to be able to bring a drug to market, because we were all generic market. So we didn't have to do clinical trials for several years, and therefore once the patent regime came and once the new clinical trials started, NCEs started getting developed, and Dr. Reddy's was one of the first company to do that, then the importance of clinical trial came up. I'm also going to show you some slides, so I think, if you can project that and give me a remote. Give me a remote. So we always thought that clinical trials was developing in India as pockets of excellence and never as something like a huge setup as you were asking, and people saw that as a necessary evil, that why should I participate in the clinical trials. And then subsequently in the recent past, so many different new drugs came, and particularly I was in Novartis when Glivec came in, and therefore I used to get a list of lot of patients in India who wanted to participate in the clinical trial, particularly those of chronic myeloid leukemia, because just participating in a clinical trial was life-saving for them. As long as they continued in the clinical trial, they were happy because they wouldn't die, they wouldn't go into what is called as a blast crisis. So I think clinical trials for saving the drug is, I think, very, very important. And with new chemical entities coming in, that seems to be possible. I think the audience is a little bit confused in the two extremes of the, one side the discovery and the other side is the generic. But, the clinical trials is something that can bridge the gap between the two. Because I think that in COVID, I think all of us saw that several drugs that we used in India, which became a model for the rest of the world, for example, tocilizumab. Who would have thought of using tocilizumab for a patient in the ICU, basically only for COVID crisis? Nobody had thought. India developed it. India did clinical trials for, the world. Bevacizumab and several other drugs that were used in India were never really tested elsewhere. So I think using that model, I feel that it is possible. I'll just show you a couple of slides only. So basically we are talking of moving from a pocket of excellence to creating an ocean of excellence. So essentially I feel that it should be called, in a lighter vein, Bake in India, simply because it takes a long time to develop a drug through clinical trials. And I think I mentioned about the ideas coming from, bevacizumab idea came from doctors. They thought of using that simply because the profile of the drug really matched the need of the patient. So I think if you apply that model to several other ideas that a lot of clinicians in India have for different drugs, all that we need to do just a simple toxicology, which is possible in few months. We can do the pharmacokinetic studies for such a drug, particularly the fixed dose combination that Harish has been talking about. So it's possible. He gave a brilliant example of a drug which is a NSAID along with the antacid. So I think anti-acid drug. So I think such drugs can be developed through a simple phase 3 trial in limited number of patients and brought to the market. So basically the ecosystem that you require is bare minimal. You don't require the kind of sophistication that Dr. Reddy's Origin or even Lupin and other companies have. But you have to come out with an idea, do with the CROs in toxicology, do pharmacokinetics with some of the BAB CROs, and then file application to the DCGI. It is possible also to file a patent. In fact, Rambabu was talking about the difficulties in getting a patent for a delivery system, but for a new idea, now it is possible that you can patent that idea. It is not a composition patent, it is a new patent, and this can be patented in several other countries as well, and that idea can be brought to market simply by a phase 3 clinical trial. So therefore, I appreciated the title of this session, Creating Value Through Clinical Trials, because clinical trials in India was always seen as something that we can't do away with, and therefore the pharma companies always asked the drug controller to waive the clinical trials. That created a few scandals in the country. But I think this is a route where you can create new clinical trials, but just by doing phase 3. The funding is going to be one of the issues, but the moment you talk to the marketing and sales departments of the company, they see the potential, just like the example Harish mentioned, they see the potential of an idea, even if it's a simple new drug, FDC, which has not been used before. And by a little bit of funding, it is possible to do a phase 3 clinical trial and bring to market. Just a quick slide on some of the things that the government can do, which is possible that they can, they have a lot of schemes like a patent box, for example. They have to include that, a lot of other items in that. It is possible that they can restore back the tax deductions to 200%, which was there before. Clinical exclusivity. There are some companies who do clinical trials in phase 3, spend a lot of money, 10 to 15 crores for one single phase 3 small trial in India. And then another company just waits in the wings and then they introduce. So obviously they haven't spent anything other than a BAB study. And the company doing a clinical trial feels penalized that why did they spend so much of money? Because the other company is in the market within a few months. So therefore some clinical exclusivity is provided. You'll see that a lot of companies are waiting in line to do clinical trials in India. And then there are few other items which are possible by the government. Pediatric exclusivity, for example, because nobody does clinical trials in patients, children. And therefore in COVID we saw that, although the cases were very few, but doctors didn't know how to treat them. So I think lastly, I just want to talk about as somebody said that, all these innovations and new ideas, the time is now simply because there is a political inclination, and our honorable and beloved Prime Minister understands the importance of R&D, and I think he was busy with a lot of other things in other ministries. I'm sure that they will put a lot of interest in the health sector now, and with the institutes such as yours here, it is possible that we bring the clinicians together to the pharma research people, the drug delivery people, the NCE people, to get new ideas into the market as quickly as possible through clinical trials. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Dhananjay. It's a very good, thought. Now, Dr. Akhil, I want to again understand a little bit more on your CAR technology, or that cell and gene therapy that you're working on. So now here, I have seen some of the companies, they have collaborated with some of the medical facilities without even having to invest on the clinical studies. So they kind of partnered. I think your Tata center in Mumbai actually has partnered with one of the company, Immunoactive, right?
Right.
So they have done that. I think one more recently they have signed up with another company. So is that also the way forward, where you don't need to have to invest from your pocket, but you can ask hospital to fund that?
It's a very interesting question, and I can tell you what I think.
Yeah.
I think what happened here was two different governmental institutions came together for the benefit of our country. So there was IIT Bombay and there was TMH Mumbai.
Correct.
And both of them came together and they had a clear goal that they have to do something for the country.
Correct.
What I feel is it's not going to be possible for anybody else.
Correct.
The reason it happened because IIT Bombay and TMH Mumbai both were involved. In fact, when the first patient was dosed, Prime Minister Modi tweeted himself. So that tells you how much the government was behind this collaboration. We are the third company in the country to actually be doing clinical trials. We are the first for patients with multiple myeloma with the target BCMA. So the other two companies, other than ImmunoAct, which is an offshoot of IIT Bombay, which is Immunil, which is Biocon's Kiran Mazumdar-Shah's company, they and us in Dr. Reddy's, we have a very similar model. So our model is we are investing our own money. In the case of Immunil, they have private investors. In the case of Dr. Reddy's Labs, it's our own revenue money. And we, of course, have collaborations with the hospitals. As Dr. Dhananjay said, it's not going to be possible for any company to work alone. This is an area where we need super collaboration. In fact, the way this drug is made, as you know, because you're also in this space, is we take the immune cells from the patient, we ship them. So right now, just this week, we had a site initiation visit at CMC Vellore. So what would happen? They're screening patients for us now. And the patient will come to CMC Vellore. Patient would give his or her immune cells, which will be done by pheresis. Then that would be shipped to us in Bangalore in our GMP facility. And then we will genetically modify that cell and make into a CAR T cell and ship it back. So of course the collaborations would be there. But the question which you have is on the funding part. I don't think the model which government did would apply to private companies. However, what I see over past 6 months alone, that government has a lot of initiatives. There's a PRIP scheme. We are also participating in a scheme for phase 1 trials with ICMR. So what we see is both Ministry of Health Research, the Department of Health Research within Ministry of Health, as well as Department of Chemicals and Pharmaceuticals, Ministry of Chemicals. They are really trying to drive innovation. And the way they're trying to drive innovation is by sharing some of the risks. We in fact have a meeting just next week. It's a public meeting with the ICMR. And what we are presenting is one of our phase 1 trials, which we have already got approved from DCGI, and we're presenting to ICMR for co-funding. So I believe things are happening. Government has recognized that there's a lot of risk. We know the kind of risk which you said. 100 molecules go into the clinic, probably less than 5 would eventually get approved. So the risk is huge. And government understands it, and to motivate companies, they're willing to share risks. We still don't know the details of these schemes. They talk about IP sharing, they talk about data sharing. So all of those things we have to figure it out, which probably we would figure it out in next 6 months. It's probably not going to be the way IIT Bombay and TMH Mumbai worked, because both of them were, governmental institutions. They had a lot of direct funding. It's probably not going to be as easy as them. But what we believe that some of our programs, not necessarily cell and gene therapy, but some of other programs probably would get governmental funding. So we do feel that government is really, really coming in as much force as they can, because they also have to take baby steps. So right now, what ICMR is doing, this is the first year they're doing it, they invited applications for phase 1 trials. About 20 different companies applied. Out of those 20, they have shortlisted 10. What they've said, out of these 10, they'll select 5. That's for ICMR. Now, the PRIP scheme, which you might know, that is going to be at a much larger level, where government has said that they would invest up to 5,000 crores over the next 5 years. So the amount of funding in PRIP scheme is going to be much more than the amount of funding which we have so far applied for.
Each applicant will be given about 100 plus crores.
100 plus crores, yes. So we would of course apply for that as well. I believe each company is allowed a maximum of 3. They can apply as much as they want, but they won't be given more than 3 fundings. But the way we see from industry is that government is very, very motivated to do things so that innovation happens in India. They're trying to see is if more and more people would come to do innovation. What they've understood that government alone cannot do it. Correct. Now in the case of IIT Bombay and TMH Mumbai, it happened. But it happened because there were certain people who were really, really driven to make this work. Now that may not happen in every governmental institution. And that's why they're really trying to partner with private companies.
So my next question is about what is the support from these VCs and the investor side for pure R&D projects like this? What kind of ecosystem is there? Now in India, I think it's still not there.
Right. So I think you're absolutely right. I'll tell you our own history, what happened. About 5 years ago, we went to market to get money. I'm talking about Origin, not Dr. Reddy's. And we got a lot of commitments from US investors, but we did not get a commitment from a single Indian investor. And the main reason I feel is risk sharing.
Risk sharing.
Because of what was just said, that the chance of success is very low. Despite best of the best science, it's less than 5%. It's the small single digits. So if there are only 5 companies in India to invest in, and if an investor is investing, the chance that he would lose his money is huge. It's almost universal. Would I put my own money? The answer is no. But if I'm in the US and there are hundreds or 200s of companies where I can diversify, where I know that the 5 of them who will succeed, there I will recuperate all the money which I lose in 95. Then I may have a risk appetite. So to answer your question, I think that part has to develop. But for that part, it has to go hand in hand. We did talk to a few investors within India, and this was a universal answer we got, that the risk is too high. And we agree with them.
But when we talk about a new drug development, we can't keep only India in mind and do it, right? So we have to look at globe as a market. Then only it becomes viable also.
Definitely.
So we can't target one specific market and develop a new drug.
Definitely.
So if that is the case, then why not you actually get the investment from US itself?
Right. So we were getting it.
Okay.
And for Indian investors also, they have to diversify. What they have to do is they cannot just look at Indian companies.
Yeah.
If they only look at Indian companies, then the choices are very limited. But if they also broaden themselves and they see that we would invest in companies around the globe, then they could diversify. So from drug development itself, we do a global development.
Okay.
So all of our trials are done both in US and India. We are under US FDA. We file an IND with the US FDA. So all of those things we do. But from the investment also, they have to diversify.
Correct.
And both of these ecosystems have to develop together. So the governmental initiative which is happening, which we see over past 6 months, at least we feel that it would go a long way. It would really encourage innovation. It would, increase the confidence of the discovery companies like us. And it would also increase the confidence of investment community. So all of these things have to happen itself. And at the same time, we have beautiful hospitals. I must tell you, when you go to, if you go to CMC Vellore, the new campus is beautiful. They have a new campus in Ranipet, which is from Vellore. If you go to Chennai, it's about 10-15 kilometers on that way. And, it's just so many buses go every 5 minutes from their old campus to new campus. The hospital is beautiful. The doctors are great. And CMC Vellore has been able to, I would say, retain their clinical research talent as well. One thing which I see a challenge in some of the institutions, especially the private ones, is their inability to retain their clinical research coordinators, which is the lowest in the food chain. So they have good doctors, like if you go to places like Manipals or Apollos or HCGs of the world, what you would see is great doctors, great facility, beautiful lounges, they have everything which is really, really good. But when it comes to people who are doing the ground level work, clinical research coordinators, they change every year. They change every year and a half. We train them in our studies, and we have to retrain them once they change. What I'm trying to say is that ecosystem also has to develop. In addition to the discovery system and the investor community system, the ecosystem within the hospital for clinical research at the ground level, not at the doctor's level, not at the senior level, not at the medical facilities level, all of them are there. But at the clinical research coordinator level, it has to become something like CMC Vellore or TMH Mumbai,
I think that
where
has to
people are
scale
more
up,
permanent.
Absolutely. So that's what we see. We have very few facilities which are of that professional nature and who have the competency to do good trials. So that's, I think, one of the problem that we have. But I think as we go along, so this also will develop.
Oh, definitely.
So India will adapt to the requirements very fast.
Definitely. I think with all what government is doing and the way our society is developing, and COVID has taught us a lot. When I initially came to India 6 years ago, the general, the big hospitals were not really trying to participate in clinical trials. The feedback was, our patients don't like to be guinea pigs. I don't see that post-COVID.
Right, correct. Good. So thank you very much. I think it was a wonderful discussion. So we had, I'm sure audience would have got some learnings from this, and it will be beneficial for them if some of them are already into this space and they wanted to use these insights. So thanks a lot. I think we can just end this session. Thanks.
As we come to the end of the session, we're indebted to all the panelists for their lively yet informative discussions on these topics. Thank you, everyone. We may now invite Dr. Vasudev Upadhyay, sir, Medical Superintendent of Sri Satya Sai Sarala Memorial Hospital, to present our token of gratitude to all the panel members. Dr. Akhil Kumar, sir. Dr. Dhananjay Bakale. Mr. Harish Jain. Now we request all the panel members to pose for a group photograph. We will now have a break for lunch and will reconvene at 3 p.m. and for the next two sessions. Thank you. Sai Ram.